Okay, this is what we are going to be creating today using InDesign. And don't worry, you're not going to be typing all of these words in. We're going to pull them from a source on the internet. But this is just an idea of what we're doing. So first I want you to open up a new file. So go to New Document. This time we're going to do for web, pretending like we're creating a web page. Let's keep the units of measurement in picas, and we'll do landscape orientation. You can keep all other defaults and then click Create. So my first thing I want you to do is to draw a text box using the type tool, and we're going to just write COVID-19. It's kind of a themed lesson today. So once you have that selected, you'll notice when your type tool is selected, you can see now the character and paragraph panels in the control panel. Now, in Illustrator and Photoshop, these were separate panels, but in InDesign, this appears at the top of your screen when that type tool is selected. We've gone over this in class, but just to remind you a little bit. So I want you to select the word COVID-19, and we are going to bump up the font size. So you guys can type in, I'm just going to do 100. Now remember, whenever you see that red plus sign in the bottom corner of the text box, you'll know that that means more text is available than is actually showing. Your text didn't disappear, it's just not able to fit into the text box that you created. So with your type tool selected and your words selected, we're now going to use the drop down arrow to choose a different font style. As you're scrolling down, you can select whichever style you want. A quick note right here, you'll see this TK that stands for Typekit. So these are fonts that are not traditionally held in InDesign. They're fonts that I've downloaded. So if you see the Typekit, if I choose one of those, you will likely not have it available to you unless you've also downloaded it. So scrolling down, I'm just going to look and pick one. All right. That's a different one than what I picked over here. In this lesson, I did Source Sans Pro. I'm just going to pick this random one. Okay, so once you have it and you have a pretty good font size selected, I want to flip through the options in the character panel just as a review for you. So you'll notice this all caps option. There is a small caps option as well. You can't really tell because I typed both of these in uppercase letters, but there is a lower caps option right there. So switch between those two, toggle back and forth. Now I want you to select just the 19, and we are going to look at this. This is called a superscript and a subscript. This kind of looks like an exponent if written in math. So you can see this is actually called a superscript. This brings your 19 to the top half of the word. Subscript would bring it to the bottom half. We're going to keep it at the top. You'll see also in InDesign, we have some options that you may have had in Word, but didn't have in Illustrator or Photoshop. We can underline, we can do that strike through option. I'm not going to do either of those to keep the word, but just to show you. Moving along here, this is kerning. You guys should know what kerning is. That's the space between individual letters. I'm actually going to bump down the kerning between the 19 and the D just to bring them a little bit closer together. I want you to select all of the letters, and we're going to change the tracking on this, just spread it out a bit. So it says COVID spread out, and the 19 should be closer because we adjusted the kerning there. Now moving down the line, we have the baseline shift here. So if I just select one letter, I can adjust the baseline by clicking the down arrow or the up arrow. I'm going to keep that at 0, maintain the same there. And then here is the vertical scale. So we're stretching the letters up and down. And then we have here the horizontal scale. So we can move them closer together or further apart. Another option that's unique in InDesign is this, it's called skew. It works kind of like italics though, but you can choose how much of it that you want it to be slanted. Okay, I'm going to keep all of that at the default settings. Moving down the list, so select just the word COVID, not 19, and we're going to add this stroke. So once we add a stroke, you'll see it added to the word, but you can't adjust the stroke settings on this paragraph panel. What we need to do is to open up the stroke panel itself to adjust that. And that is also something that is different in InDesign. So as we open up the stroke panel, you'll see there you can change the stroke and it adjusts the thickness of the stroke. Okay. So we have written the word COVID, we have given it a stroke, we have made the 19 a superscript. Once you've done that, we're going to move this word off of the screen. The next thing that we need to do is to create a type box that takes up we'll just go from the margins on the page. So we're going to create a type box that takes up the margins. Did I already do it? Yes, I already did it. Okay, so we're going to paste into this type box. So what I need you to do is to go to Google, find whatever coronavirus article that you like, and we're just going to copy that text. So I'm going to paste this text in here and see it pasted into my box. There is a plus sign because there's more text to be shown. But what I want you to do is to go through and remove that extra spacing. So I'm going to pause this and remove it, and then I'll start it back up. All right, so I removed a lot of the spacing on there. I also closed that geometrics panel because it kept getting in my way. I want you to now select all of the text. Whoops. I want you to select all of the text that is on your screen. And we're going to do justified text. Close that again. So when you justify the text, you'll see that that stretches it from side to side. This is kind of what you would typically see in a newspaper. Next thing, I want you to go to your ellipse tool, and we're just going to draw a circle, an ellipse, on the top of your text that you just created. I'm going to change that to a black fill. Now, I want you now to go to the Windows panel, and we're opening up the text wrap panel. When you see that, we're going to click these two options. So the first option is to wrap around bounding box. That maintains the bounding box, but it doesn't actually tighten up to the shape. The next option here is wrapped around object. So that removes the transparency so that your text fits right in line with the object. So we can do the same thing with a picture, which is what we're going to do next. So I want you now to go on Google, find a picture of this typical coronavirus. That's the picture they're using everywhere. Copy it, and then we're going to paste it in. So a couple things I want to show you when we paste it in. So I'm going to scroll over. Here is my picture. So when you paste something in, it does not have that transparency option that you will often find when you are using a PNG. So if you paste in a PNG, it maintains transparency. But if you paste in a picture you just found on the internet, there's no transparency. It just sees this as white. So when we click text wrap, there's no option to tighten in on the object. So what we're going to do for kind of a workaround for that is I want you to delete what we just downloaded, and we're going to paste, you should still have it copied, we're going to paste it into the circle that we had. So I want you to go to edit, and we're going to do paste into. You'll now see the coronavirus picture, that standard picture, inside of the image. And we're going to move the image so that it just has some white showing. Remember, you need to have the hand visible in order to move the image. When it's that black arrow, the selection tool, you're actually not selecting the image, you're selecting the circle itself. So you want to make sure you see the hand to select. Now I have the arrow, and I'm going to move the circle into my text. You'll see now I can either do bounding box or I can do tighten up to object, and that's what we want to do. Last thing, I need you to move back that COVID-19 that we created in the beginning. And I'm going to do arrange, bring to front. Then I'm also going to click that option, and you'll see we can separate the text so that it appears at the top. Another option, so you'll see my bounding box is not really working very well in line with that. So what I can do is I can go up to object, fitting, and then I can do fit frame to content. That will tighten that up a little bit better. Okay, so this is your final image that you should create, and we'll look at it in preview mode, and that's what it would look like if printed. That's it for today.